working on a project with many different curriculum connections, I enjoy learning alongside my students. In my classroom, we are all learning together. We create networks where we are able to access a variety of different learning opportunities, develop our skills, and build new knowledge. Reflection is an important part of our learning process. We think about our learning, what worked best for us, how we might do things differently next time, and how our thinking has changed as a result of our learning. My students and I share our reflections, learn from each other, and plan next steps that will move our learning forward. Within my classroom, I have 7 students on IEPs. I find doing hands-on experiences like this, the students are able to really hone in on the skills that they do have. And I've offered so many different entry points into the different projects that they can decide what works for them. If they're more comfortable with videotaping a friend, being a partner situation, they can kind of be that editor in the situation. So they're behind the scenes. They don't have to have that upfront voice. The other thing with the writing and the voice threads, they get the chance to, I can sit with them, write with them, and when it comes time to narrate it, there's no difference in what they've said. You can't hear a spelling error when they're reading it. So for my boys, that voice thread, especially those IEP students, they're the ones that are succeeding the most with this type of technology because you don't hear them as any different in the class. We've done a number of different mathematical voice threads now where the students actually have a word problem and they solve it together, and then they have to go back and communicate their understanding. And for me, that communication, I never would get out of the boys when I wanted them to write it. It's math, I'm not supposed to write, it's numbers. Now they're recording how they know that they got the right answer, what they did to get to those answers, and I have a record of how they've evolved. It's really neat. I was actually showing some of the students recently what they did about 2 months ago when we first got the project to now, and some of them couldn't believe how their communication has changed just over this time because they're doing it more, they're more willing, and they're participating more, so they're getting that knowledge and they're doing it more. And now it's translating and we've seen the results and we can look at where they've come from. For my classroom, the blogs have been a really big growth mechanism for them. I've actually been able to see them grow in their writing and how they dialogue with one another. When I introduced the blogs to the students, I set them up each an account that has their own password and user ID, so I can track what each student has said. They have that, and it's a secure password, it's not a generic one, so I can see that aspect of them. And we started off with talking about their books. So instead of doing a reader's response notebook, they actually blogged about what they were reading. The other students got to ask them questions, clarify, find out what they really enjoyed about the book, and in turn they started making recommendations. It was neat to see that through the class it spread and the same students were reading the same books and they were building that rich dialogue between one another because they had that same content, but they were able to communicate their own experiences into it. For the security of the blogs, I have the ability to moderate everything. So any posts or comments that are put up onto our blog, either by the students or someone outside, they immediately I get an email notice that there's been a change, and I have the ability to go in and decide whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. If it's inappropriate, it's one of my students, I'm able to send them a message and try and give them some details why I think it's inappropriate. It may be simple as that the spelling isn't correct or there needs some grammatical changes to it. They can make those changes and then resubmit it, and I decide when it's appropriate for it to go up.